But when somebody said, hey, Jen, she screwed up, and that's not okay. And let's talk about what would be a better way to move forward on this, and how can we support one another as you make amends or clean up your mess or make a better choice. Then I feel safer to actually do something.
Hi, folks. This is Eric Nachtigal and Ginger Lewman from the Resilience team. We are here with another episode of Quick Bites, and we appreciate you tuning in to listen. Man, we've got a great topic today. I think something that everybody needs to ponder and think about. And it's like, hey, Ginger, we got a lot of kids out there. And I mean, we're talking kids these days. It seems like they can do whatever they want. They get away with anything, disruptive, all sorts of behaviors, and nothing happens. There's no punishment. What is going on?
Yeah, all that gentle parenting crap too, right? I can say that, can't I? Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Yes, you could say that.
Yeah, these are the sorts of conversations that we're seeing on the socials, that we're hearing in our hallways, that we're experiencing around the Thanksgiving table from Grandpa and Uncle, right? These are the things that people are talking about.
Looking forward to Thanksgiving now with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, whatever other holiday, right? I believe that the people who are listening to this are people who already bought into this, so I'm not really going to address directly those folks.
Okay.
What I am going to do is I'm going to present a thought about how do we have conversations with people who come at us with that point of view, that they want to see kids get punished. And we see the response oftentimes, well, just because, you had to endure the beatings doesn't mean that it was right, nor is it okay to do that to other human beings, because that turns us into such stable human beings, right? As you're so eloquently demonstrating, wanting to beat children for fun, right? And logical sense, it doesn't make sense.
No.
One of the things that we talk about when we're helping people over this hardest hill, because it really is the concepts between punishment and discipline, and the idea of what are consequences, and the concept of holding others accountable or being accountable, and these four words, we in America, I don't know about the other parts of the world, but definitely in America, we use these, and definitely in schools, as if they're the same word.
Do you mean to tell me that accountability and punishment are not exactly the same?
It is in some people's minds until we sit down and really start to examine that. And I don't want to go too deep into that, but one of the strategies that we do is just make lists. What does punishment look like, feel like, sound like? And my gosh, 99.9% of the time, the responses we get it's generally pain. It's inflicted on you from one person in power over another. And along that general line. And then when we start to say, well, what are consequences? What comes up a lot is that it is neutral, that the consequences fit the crime, so to speak, that they are sometimes natural, that they come up with a neutral flavor. And then we ask people, well, then what's discipline? And then in that kind of conversation, they'll say, well, it means really that we're teaching, that we're learning, that it's that there's growth, there's change, there's something moving through, and so then in that conversation, I'm not telling people this, but we're asking people and groups of people, and they just make a list, and then it comes pretty apparent that they're very different words. And then we talk about accountability. Well, then what is accountability? Because we use this so much. I'm going to hold them accountable. They need to be held accountable for what they did. And one of the questions I like to ask is, if I think about homework, can I make a kid do their work? Can I take their hand, put a pen or pencil in their hand, move their hand, and make them do I can't make anybody. Can I make a person be truly sorry for what they've done?
The answer is no, folks.
I can make them say sorry. That don't make them sorry. And we know this is true, right? So what is accountability then? And accountability is where we start to create a space where people feel safe enough to say, yeah, I did wrong, to where we can see each other's hearts. We can see each other's humanity. And I still feel safe enough to say, wow, I'm sorry. And how do I clean this up? Right? So when we have that conversation, And people will nod at the end of it, and some people won't. They'll be like, I'm not so sure about that. And that's okay. Because again, as I said at the very beginning, this is the hardest hill for people to start to rethink how they were brought up and the experiences that they had as children and what we've done with our own kids and the belief systems and the values behind it. And so we're really having to backtrack and think, what was I trying to do and what do I want to do in the future? And so we're trying to reconcile this. So for some folks, it's a hard hill to climb. So we want to visit it again and again. But what I personally have found is when I have that conversation and follow it up pretty soon after, talking about the social discipline window. And this is just a quadrant. You know, if you go back into math class, you've got your 1, 2, 3, 4 quadrants on an X and Y axis, right? And this is a concept that came from Ted Wachtel, and it's been used again and again across the world, talking about how do we want to do discipline to teach when there's been conflict. How do we want to grow with the people we're with? It isn't just with kids. How do we use it with other humans? And so if you think about the X and the Y axis, if you're watching on video, I've got my hand moving because I'm a visual thinker. The Y axis going up and down, if we were to make that to be, let's just say, expectations. Right? That's what I don't know if that's what Ted eventually wrote, but that's what I like to say. If I have super high expectations, and then across the X-axis, I'm going to have the amount of support that right? So the expectations are that you're going to learn that how we're going to behave with one another. That's the limits and settings and boundaries and discipline. And then across with the support is it's nurturing, it's encouragement. And then in those 4 pieces, in the bottom lower left quadrant is the not quadrant. It's got low expectations and it's got low support. So when somebody does something wrong, what that looks like is I'm just ignoring it and hoping they'll eventually stop it. And you know what? I'm going to tell you, I've been taught to do that. When a kid is acting some sort of way, we're not going to reward it with attention. And in the social discipline world, that's neglectful. We're not addressing and we're not having high expectations, nor are we really supporting them to be different. Okay? So let's go to the space where let's say somebody does something wrong, right? And let's say my favorite example is when somebody is running down the hallway. Because again, secondary teacher, I see it all the time. Somebody's running or they're horsing around out in the hallway. And I'm not going to yell. So if you've got your headphones on, be aware that, what do we say? We go like, walk! We yell at them and say, walk! And so that's super high expectation. That I want my kids to be safe in the hallway. We are not running in the hallway or we're not horsing around. This is not a safe way to do it. And I'm going to let you know right now that you got to stop it. And so that's high expectations. But how much support, encouragement, and nurturing am I having with that? Little to none, right? And I don't care. It's about safety. Yep, absolutely. And that would be in the 2 quadrant. I'm doing discipline to another person. Not with them, not for them, I'm doing it to them. That's sometimes blaming, that can be punishment, it's oftentimes loud. Sometimes it comes with a finger, wagging at you. So let's go to a different quadrant. Let's go to the one which is high support and low expectations. And I see this happening in schools too. Not that I'm calling out elementary teachers, but I see it in elementary a lot for good reason. Elementary teachers freaking love kids. They just want to love on them. And so when a kid does wrong, let's say a kid says, that's it, and they flip the table or they wipe the table, the assignment off onto the floor. I'm not doing this. And, a great elementary teacher cares. So they're going to come over and they're going to pick up the stuff. Come on. And they're going to do it for them. High support, low expectations. And by the way, it's not all elementary teachers and it's not all secondary teachers doing the 2. I'm just going very stereotype here, right? Yes.
I will admit.
You're a 4?
I'm an elementary teacher, and there were definitely, I can think back to my teaching days that I did 4 for kids. And for exactly what you're saying, we want to help kids, and we don't, and I, speaking for myself, I don't want to apply this to every elementary, but I felt like I was supporting them.
Yeah.
And in a way I was, but my mistake there was I was not thinking long-term of this. I want this student to be independent. I wanted to be successful, and I need to have expectations with high support. I was missing that part. So I admit, folks, I was that person on more than one occasion.
I love standing in front of a group having this conversation with an elementary teacher, because we are perfect foils for one another, because I am absolutely the two. My dad was a drill sergeant, right? We did not mess around. And then to be with an elementary teacher who has all that nurturing. Was that our slip?
A little of both. Maybe a little of both.
Okay, so then let's move into the last quadrant, which is high expectations and high support, which is what we ideally want to have in the world. When we are regulated human beings and somebody does something wrong, they're doing something that's against the rules, they're doing something unsafe, not good choices, whatever, then I want to have the high expectations with high support. So we consider that with. Right? I'm going to do the discipline with them. That looks like cooperating. That looks like collaborating. That's about helping create a space where the person wants to take responsibility, take accountability to what they've done, to teach why this is not okay, and how can I help you as you are cleaning up your mess. Right? This is where the real teaching, the real discipline happens. If you think about a time, dear listener, when you did something wrong and somebody came at you with the, oh my God, you really screwed up, and they, right? For me, that just makes me want to shrink and lie and be like, I didn't do anything, I wasn't me, right? And just to get out of it, because that's terrifying to have somebody in my face. Think about another time where, and again, I'm going to talk about me, because that's the only experience I have here, is when I've done something wrong and somebody said, it's okay, Ginger, you tried your best, knowing full daggum well I could have done better if I would have, well, then I didn't have to worry. But when somebody said, hey, Ginge, you screwed up, and that's not okay, and let's talk about what would be a better way to move forward on this, and how can we support one another as you make amends or clean up your mess or make a better choice. Then I feel safer to actually do something, because I know that I'm not hated, I know I'm not in danger, and I know I can't get away with it. And that other quadrant of not neglectful, gosh, and honestly, I see that happening in schools too, because I was taught to diminish behavior by ignoring certain behaviors, and sometimes that's good, and a lot of times it's not, because we're not teaching, nor supporting.
Would it be fair to say, in this conversation of the social discipline window, the 2, 4 with all of that, and I love you're saying, I'm accrediting it to you. Correct me if I'm wrong, if it came from somebody else, but I'm accrediting it to the brilliance of Ginger, is the whole concept. Do they feel safe enough to be accountable? I love that, because. And here's getting directly to my question. All of this really is underpinned by the value of relationships.
Right.
I mean, to be able to go through and do with and have a child or an adult or whoever be accountable and be able to take accountability for their actions, feel safe enough to clean up their mess, make amends, whatever it is, it does take the underpinning of a valued and strong relationship with a partner, a friend, a teacher, or whoever. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, first and foremost, that is not mine. That's not me. I didn't say.
I'm still the brilliance of Ginger in my mind.
Somebody said it somewhere, and I thought that's brilliant. But also, it plays out in my experience in the world. If I don't have a pretty safe relationship with somebody, think about it. If I'm being called out because I've done something wrong, I'm in a vulnerable state, and I have a choice: fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or come forward. And the only way I'm going to come forward is if I know that person has my back and my best interest at heart. If they don't have my best interest at heart, screw you, I'm gone. I keep saying these words today. But I'm talking about me, right? And you're lucky I said screw you.
She speaks the truth,
so
folks.
sorry.
She speaks the truth.
Please don't let the boss listen to this. We'll have a conversation with them.
And there'll be high support and high expectations.
Probably. I do believe that here. So anyway, friends, this is called the social discipline window, also called the relationship matrix. This is not new, but it is powerful because when we talk about the hardest hill to climb, about rethinking what we have experienced growing up in terms of when we've done something wrong and punishment, discipline, consequences, accountability. and then to look at it through that window of just a quadrant that's simple of expectations with support, that's delicious. And I think it's easier. It's like a turbo on the hill that I'm trying to climb.
Yeah. Folks, this has been the wonderful, amazing, talented Ginger Lewman sharing about the social matrix window.
It was created by other people, not by me. I'm just sharing it.
But she's sharing it in very understandable, amazing ways. So, and I am Eric Nachtigal, totally agreeing with Ginger here. And we thank you for joining us for this Quick Bite. Well, hopefully you'll join us for another one coming up soon. Thanks.